So we are live. Welcome to welcome to Laurie Maves ART, the sketchbook diaries of an evolving art therapist. Very long title. Creative Journeys series, interview number 23 with Miranda van den Heuvel.
Yes,
Did I do that?
you did it perfectly well.
Perfect. Perfect. Kristen, thank you for joining us. People come to join in. If you guys have questions for Miranda about her creative process, we're going to talk today about creativity and her art and her journaling and her amazing sketchbook collages and in a recent artist residency that you were in Portugal for how many weeks?
I was there for 6 weeks,
That's fantastic.
mid-December to almost end of January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so welcome. Thanks for talking to
Mhm.
me about this process. And I like to do these just to share with people, the general public, how important creativity is. It can come, it's with us our entire lives, but a lot of times we forget about it or we lose sight of it or we get disconnected from it because a teacher told us so or our lives took us in certain directions, whatever. And, you're just somebody I've seen on Substack who just every day you're in it, you're doing it, and you're sharing your gifts with us. So, welcome and just introduce yourself to us and
Yeah.
about your Substack or wherever you wanna take it.
Thanks for having me, Laurie. I enjoy your art as well, and I love following and seeing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know where to start. I think creativity starts when we are born. And like you said, a lot of us, we lose it somewhere on the way. And that happened to me as well because I was told I couldn't draw, I couldn't sing, I couldn't, do any of the things that kids love to do and are really naturally good at.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to find my way back in there. And and once I did, I was like, they were all wrong. And so, yeah, I took a few classes and that got me back into painting. So I painted a lot big like you do. And now I have way too many paintings in my house. So I needed to think smaller and I got sick a little bit as well.
Okay.
And so I was sick for a while, and so this what I do now is I art journal a lot, and that art journaling is really like therapy for me, and it really, let's say, saved me and my mental health while I was sick. And so for now, I do it almost daily, and it's really a practice that I enjoy a lot, that helps me understand and translate the world and the problems and my own issues and, conflicts that I have. I just take them to my journal and I just start painting and things start coming out. And and people seem to enjoy it because I've been posting it everywhere and everybody is like, "Wow, this is so amazing. How do you do that? I want to do that too." You know, how it goes.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. And I have really cranked up my creativity lately because I stopped working. I'm officially retired. And
Congratulations. Oh,
right?
maybe not. Sometimes people
Oh,
I
that's
don't think they
good.
leave their work if
Good.
they yeah, but whole
Yeah.
other thing.
For me, it's just more time to create. Before it was kind of like I had to do it and find a way to squeeze it into my day.
Sure.
And now I'm like, I've got all the time in the world. I can create all day long if I want to.
Yeah.
And so recently, well, last year, I I started learning Portuguese because I like Portugal a lot. And you know how the algorithm works. When you start being interested in certain topics, the algorithm sends you more things of that certain topic.
Sure.
And so Portugal started popping up a lot more. And in 2022, um, when I was on another disease journey,
Yeah.
I took a break and I went to Portugal to just be away from everything for a week. And I stayed in a very tiny village just to, resource myself before whatever happened happened. And I really felt connected to that place. It was kinda like a déjà vu, but without having ever been there. And last year, um, the algorithm sent me an ad with that village. Like, "We want you to come to Portugal," and it was that village, and I was like, "Whoa, that's the universe sending me a sign. What
Yeah,
is
yeah.
going on?" And so I ended up going to this place, these people that have a hotel there, and they hosted me for an art residency for 6 weeks
Oh,
in that village. And I was like, I need to go find out what's going on over there. Yeah. My word of the year is curious. So I was like, I was so curious to see whether what I was supposed to find there, not just from an artist and creativity perspective, but also this place that had called me there. And so, yeah, that was really fun. 6 weeks. 6 weeks of creating and thinking, "What am I gonna use these 6 weeks for?"
right.
Because usually when I in the morning, I come, I open my art journal, and I just start creating, yeah? I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I just start creating a
Beautiful.
page a page a
Oh,
day,
I love your
right?
pages. Yes.
Without thinking, without concept, without a plan, just
Yeah.
intuitively, yeah, I
Intuitive
just
stuff.
right, I start tearing out pages and papers, and I just start gluing, and then I add some paint, and there's always a message in there for me as the artist, and there's always a translation of what's going on in my life at the moment, and when I went to Portugal, I was like, "Well, I need to I'm gonna take my journal with me. I'm gonna create something daily for me because that's what I do.
Yeah,
But I do wanna think about a project that I can use the 6 weeks for, and what should that be?" And I wanted to link it to themes that are important to me. And so Portugal being the cultural country that it is, I wanted the feminine, so the women, I wanted that to be a topic, and I was in a village close to Fatima, which is a very, pilgrims, city. It's like Lourdes in France, so I wanted faith, not necessarily the religious kind, but faith to be a part of it, and then fado, which is the Portuguese music, I wanted that to be a part of it as well, and then I went exploring, so I wrote a few Substack, newsletters or posts about the whole journey and how could I had no clue what I was gonna do. I wanted to do something with tiles because Portugal is full of these magnificent tiles. But was I gonna do something on a tile? Was I gonna create tile? I had no idea. And that's new, to me because now I know I take this and I start creating, but there I was like, What's gonna be the is it gonna be a canvas? Is it gonna be a book? Is it gonna be" no idea. And that's where a lot of people get lost in creativity, I think, because when they don't have a plan, they get scared.
yeah,
And so I know that. The
right.
fear is part of it, and you just
Yes,
have to trust that it will come,
yes,
and it'll all it's like a puzzle. In the beginning, you have no clue where the pieces go, but after a while, you start seeing the whole picture, and you have to start becoming comfortable with that, not knowing where this is going.
right.
And I found that very interesting. So, I don't know if you've had that kind of
Oh,
experience as well. You
all the time.
create?
All the time
Yeah.
when I'm painting, and I just wanna say this is just, fascinating. Algorithms in our brains. But just this morning before whatever, I was looking up anything or whatever, I saw something quickly on Instagram where I think it was, is the writer, I think it's I was Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote, Eat, Pray, Love.
Yep.
She writes a lot, but it was and I don't necessarily follow her. I don't know how this came up, but it was just one quick snippet, and she said, "Fear is, the opposite or something like that of curiosity." And it's exactly what you're talking about when you're in an intuitive state or when you do things trying to live your life or make your art or approach your existence with you can do it with fear or you can do it with curiosity. And obviously there's a great element of faith that you have to have when you're approaching from curiosity. But
Mm.
it's just what you said, like, even approaching this big painting, I've had, like, moments where I, like, seize up, like, what I don't wanna mess it up, and then I have to go right to just having the faith that whatever is gonna happen, and if you mess it up, well, then be curious about how to fix it, right?
Yeah. There's always a lesson in mistakes and
Yeah,
messing up, yeah, because there is no messing up really in creativity and in art, yeah, it always leads to something, right?
yeah. Did you have any big aha moments on your trip or some moments where, because of your art or just being there, it was something or like a lesson learned that you were like, "I had no idea."
So, the project that I created there wasn't a canvas. And the whole thing kind of came together while I was there. Like, this is how the creative process works. Yeah. You go, and the first step is you go exploring. Yeah. You kind of like open up to things and see what comes. And at some point, you need to converge back into, okay, now I have all these ideas. What am I going to do with it? And
Yeah,
then you have to broaden it up again. And you have to come, so I was constantly looking and then bringing it back to how can I use that in my project and going wide again, and then had another idea, and then at some point you have to stop having too many ideas because otherwise you never finish your
yeah,
project.
yeah.
So I wanted to create tile like pieces with women on there that had a certain meaning in the history for women in Portugal. And so I started talking to a lot of women in Portugal, and I was pointed to different women across the history of Portugal that had meant something for, you know, the feminine or feminist movements or the well being or whatever of women in Portugal. And so I started collecting these stories about these women, the words that represented them, the imagery that went with it. And then I was like, okay, well, how do I bring this all together? Because in the beginning, I just had these kind of like tiles made. So this is one of the women.
And what is that on? Is that on an actual
It's just on a it's
piece
just
of
on
cardboard?
cardboard.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to do it on tiles, but then I was like, oh, it's gonna be heavy in my luggage.
Yeah.
I can always do that later.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was just about getting the idea in
Right.
there. So there's different tiles like that. And I was like, well, how am I gonna they all have a story. How am I gonna connect that? And so the idea of a sort of procession came because the faith part. Um, and then I was like, but then it's not a painting anymore. Then I've never done that, like installation art, like
Yeah, yeah,
you go in and you kind of follow a procession along these tiles that are set up in a room
yeah.
where some music is playing. So I basically wrote a whole concept booklet about how I imagine this procession installation to be. And that basically was the project that I finished in Portugal. Now, there was no installation yet, but I have the concept for it.
Yeah,
And now I'm also comfortable just having that sit there for a while
sure.
and wait and see what happens. I'm talking about it all the time. So at some point, I'm thinking maybe somebody will say, hey, send me your concept because I got the room and we got the concept for it, linked to whatever. Something will come of it.
Yeah,
And even if it doesn't, that's fine too, because for me, that learning process of getting out of my comfort zone of not knowing what I was going to create, not creating the usual art journal or painting
yeah,
was so enriching. And and that's not easy to get to because you have to go to such a retreat or art residency, or you have to go
yeah.
away and move out of your comfort zone to
Yes.
get there.
Yeah,
And that's scary. That is scary. That's beyond, starting on a blank page or a blank canvas.
sure,
That's totally different.
sure. Can we see some more of those do you have tiles there to show us? I think that they make such
Yeah.
lovely
So
tools.
this is Amalia Rodriguez. She is the most famous fado singer in Portugal,
Okay,
and she would be like the end tile because for me she is she brings all the voices of the women together in the end. She's the echo that keeps on singing,
sure.
and there's different women. One is very historical. She was locked up and she started writing. So it's like the locked up word that still prevails even though you're locked up. There's one woman, she was into care and health for the women beyond before, there was any care and health for the women.
Sure.
There was one that went into politics. She was like the Margaret Thatcher of Portugal. And another one was rebellious and spoke out about feminist rights in Portugal. One is a poet who wrote really about female feelings, things like that. One made art. How can you translate what's going on, even though you're limited as a woman, either to speak out or, you know, they weren't listening to women at that time. So how can you get your ideas and words and work out into the world with those limitations?
Yeah.
And I think that is a beautiful message of this, is how they managed to do that creatively in a way, to go across those boundaries that they had and the limitations that they had. And I found that very fascinating, because it's still a lot the case now for many people, not just women, that they're limited by circumstances, um, you know, the situations they're in, or they don't have the money, or they don't have the time, or they limit themselves very
Yeah.
often as well. We do limit ourselves, and we're our own worst critic when it comes to it. So
Yeah.
these women prove that it's all in finding your voice, finding your way of communicating what you think is important. And that was fascinating for me, connecting all that together and turning it into these tiles that then eventually, hopefully, one day become this processional installation.
Sure. But, when you hold them up for whatever collaging method you use, they do really, they come through complete as tiles. So they're beautiful to start with.
Yes.
And then the tiles themselves made me think about a couple of things. Like, one, how the tiles are used functionally in our home to create
Hmm.
floors and walls, and how they all piece together kind of like a quilt. And then another thing I also kind of came to me with the tile is that, in the making of the ceramic tile, I used to take a bunch of ceramics when I was in school, and I remember the professor was saying, "Well, once it's fired, it's here forever.
Yeah, it's done.
It's on the planet forever, unless someone breaks into shards and makes a mosaic out of it. It's
Mhm.
forever." And so
Yeah.
he would say that as a cautionary when people were making stuff or putting stuff in there, like, I don't know if I really like it. And like, realize that when you convert it from the dirt of the earth and you bake it, you're, so if you're not really happy with it, put it back, rework it, do the mold again, or whatever. So, so I was just tying together the metaphor in my head about these women's stories are here forever, even if they get broken into, a million pieces. Parts of them will always be here, just fragments of us, and the metaphor of that can go on forever and ever. But
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, where do people get lost in creativity very often is because they work with the end result in mind. So they want it to look a certain way. They
yes,
want it to be beautiful.
yes,
So they don't want to mess it up. And
yes,
so they're in their head while they're creating. And that's not, I mean, you have to be in your head while you're creating, but you need to be on the right side of your brain and not the
yeah,
left.
yeah,
So that's where a lot of people get stuck. And I used to teach intuitive painting classes, and that's where a lot of people got stuck. The white canvas, like, how do I start? But when you give them clear indications of, like, here, this is how you start, yeah.
yes,
And but then they would get, once they created something that they kind of liked, that's when they would get stuck because they didn't want to ruin it. And I was like, well, you have to sometimes, let go of something nice to create something beautiful and better.
yes,
And those are great lessons in art, and they're also great lessons in life. There's so many parallels between any creative act and life, I find.
yeah,
And That to me is always the best lesson. And when people realize that something, their face changes, they're like, oh, now I get it. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's it. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted. That's
Yeah.
you 5 years ago. If I'm 5 years old,
Yeah.
that creative 5-year-old you that had no fear whatsoever. Kids create when they're 5 and they're like, look, mom, it's beautiful. And they are convinced it is. And it is. And we lose that. And that's such a shame, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a huge bit of advice and wisdom, even for everybody working, any professional artists, any artist who's working their life as a career, making things for other people or designing objects or whatever. That is the biggest thing I also see where people in their mind, students, creators, they have the vision.
Hmm.
I want it to look like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's wonderful what you said. And trying to help people. Well, and I've we're also worked with people and they get so frustrated and it's like they just throw, they throw the materials down or they like walk away, throw their hands
Yeah.
up and like it's not the way I want it to look. And sometimes I also just take it out. I'm like, well, the painting is its own thing. It's its own thing. Imagine if it as its own person, and you keep telling that person it doesn't want to exist as it wants to exist, and you're just like that teacher who told you in 5th grade or as a kindergartner, well, your painting isn't good enough. Go put it over there. So I think that's even in your life, right? I want my life to look a certain way. It's
Hmm.
just live it the way you want to live it, and you know that this, and I think that happens for me a lot. Like I'm getting much better at it, but I've had to practice a lot because in my mind I would have a plan of the way I wanted things to go,
And
and
then life happens.
yeah, and then your attachment to these outcomes. It's this attachment to these outcomes that I think get us going sideways. It's nice to have a big goal and a big plan and a big vision, like you said, but our path to
But
that.
then you have to let it go and
Yes.
let it become.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think what hurts my heart every time is when people say, Miranda, I'm just not creative. I could never do what you do. I'm like, maybe you could never do what I do, but you are creative. And I'm not allowing anybody to say they're not. And I have proof of it. And they're like, you have proof that everybody's creative? Yes. Because in any class or in any workshop that I've given, I give the same instructions to, let's say, 10 people. The same instructions. Do this, do that, do this, and then do that, and they create 10 different things. So if they were not creative, the 10 people would have created the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But they didn't because they translate what I say in their own way and then put that on canvas or on
Yeah.
paper or wherever. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. So we all got the same instructions, but everybody created something else.
Yeah.
So your that's your voice, that's your touch, that's your creativity. And that is amazing when you can get that through to them that
Yeah.
they do have this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
what's on your
magic.
yeah, it is. It's wonderful that you're doing that for so many people. What, so what's on the horizon for you this spring, or are there certain projects that you wanna share that you're working on?
I have absolutely no idea.
I love that answer. I
I
love it.
always I always had plans, and then some of them worked out and some of them didn't, and then I would get frustrated and I would try to, push and pull and try to get there. I have stopped doing that. And and lately I've just been creating for myself and posting it everywhere, and my Facebook has recently blown up. I don't know why, but I've had some videos went viral and I was like,
Fantastic.
this is what I wanted some years ago and it didn't happen. And now I'm like, I don't care. And now it happens. And that's again proof that I still needed to learn that lesson myself that
Yeah,
yes, you may have plans, but sometimes you just have to let go and then things naturally or organically materialize, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
I'm still curious to see what happens. I want to just create for fun and keep doing that, keep sharing that with people across the board, and then see where that takes me. So I have the privilege now that I don't need to make any plans.
yeah.
So we'll see where that takes me.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you I learned, a great thing from you.
Mm?
It's, the I've been watching some of your YouTube videos and using the wax or the beeswax to
Yes.
stop the pages from sticking.
Yeah.
I had to be almost 55 before I learned that from you.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
yes.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
I actually had this I had this candle where I had burned it prematurely. I blew it out too early. I'm like, "Oh, there's all this wax that's wasted." And then I saw your video, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, you can help me with
Yeah.
my pages that are stuck together."
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
cut out these pieces of wax, and I can't wait. That's a wonderful, um I'm gonna maybe I think so when this, interview is over, I will post it later, but I'll include your links and with some of
Okay.
your videos. Maybe you can send me a couple of your favorite ones or ones that you'd like to promote. Um, and you also inspired me, Miranda, this morning to make my own journal because I'm doing this. I'm traveling again to Sardinia, but I saw your video, so I sat down. I'm like, I bought these sketchbooks, but I haven't made a cover for it yet. So
Yeah, that makes me so happy.
yeah, you brought this right along, and this
Oh,
one's
cool.
about I'm going to Sardinia again this, next month and taking some women there with me on a retreat, so, creative
That's
yoga retreat, but
exciting.
it is, and, I think do you notice when you travel, um, what's it called? Do you sketch where you're at ever, or do you do some plein air drawing or painting, or have you ever done
I
that?
am not a great sketcher. I'm a soaker-upper. I just go
I
and
love it.
I soak up. I'm a
Soak it up.
sponge. I'm a sponge. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I'm a sponge. I see things. I do take a lot of photos, and then I never look at them again. And then I just come home and I can show you one page, for
Please.
example, um, that I created while I was in Portugal, and it's so different from what I usually do because it's totally not the colors I normally use. I went exploring, and so I used the leaflets and the imagery that I found in the different um, museums and things like that, and I used that to collage because I was like, how am I
And
gonna? I do want to integrate what I'm discovering in the different places, and incorporate that into my art journal as well. So it created a few pages that are very, very different from what I usually do. So I included some of the images, some of
mm,
the words,
mhm.
and yeah, so there. But I do have my voice and my style now. So even if I create something where I think that's not typical for me, it still looks like me.
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, I love exploring. So I soak up more than I sketch. And then I take it to my art journal and then it kind of like pours all out.
sure. I'm sure,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or share with us before
Mm. No, I think what is serving me well at the moment, and that's kind of my mantra for this year, is be curious, not judgmental. I actually have it. It's Walt Whitman who said that. I cut it out at some point. Now I write it down everywhere as a reminder for myself. So it's not only my word of the year, but it's kind of my mantra. Be curious, not judgmental. And so whenever I find myself judging something or someone or whatever, I'm like, "Huh, why am I judgmental here? Why am I upset or whatever, why is this triggering something? And can
right,
I be curious instead?
right.
See where that leads me." And it's been very interesting where just that thought alone can take you.
I think that's huge. I think that's huge. I think it's wonderful that you hear other people talk about, like, that thing that came up with Elizabeth Gilbert and the fear,
Mm.
and the fear
Yes,
obviously is linked with judgment. Um, but I
totally.
think that's
Very
that's
often self-judgment, yeah.
yeah. I think that's I'm just writing this down here because I think that's, um, something important for others to remember too, is that if
Mm,
you're moving in a direction that you're finding you're getting anxious or fearful, maybe just stop and shift your lens to curiosity instead of fearing a failure or that it's not gonna go the way you think you want it to go. Just
Ooh, I wonder where it wants to go,
yeah,
right? That's
right,
like opens up the page again.
right.
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I totally, truly enjoyed this conversation today, even though it's
Me
short,
too.
but, it's nice
And
to
we
get
were
to know
saying in
you
the
this
beginning
way.
how we match
We're
color-wise today as
yeah.
well. I love
If
that.
I oh, look at these. That one would be
Oh,
really nice.
no, really? Oh, I love it. Excellent. This was
Oh,
meant to be.
meant to be. Miranda, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to, posting this maybe either later today or in a day or 2, and, send me whatever links you'd like to add,
Will do.
and it's just a joy to see you on Substack on a daily basis, and, you're a real gift. You're a real gift to a lot of people and encouraging a lot of people just to get curious of their own creativity and living an open life without having too many plans.
Mm, I like that. That's a
Yeah,
good word there.
yeah,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and if people who are joining now or joining later or seeing this later have any questions, they can, for sure message me and ask me anything. Yeah.
that would be great. Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm sure people will have questions. But so you're on really quickly. So you're on Substack as is your
Substack, where I write more than I post art. I
yes,
do post there daily, but not as much as elsewhere. So I have a Facebook page,
yeah,
I have Instagram,
yeah,
and I have YouTube now
okay,
since like 2 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
I love
exploring new areas as well, which is great.
yeah, I love your YouTube. I love your YouTube.
I'll send you the links so you can put them under the
I'd love to do that. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and thanks so much,
You're
Miranda.
welcome.
Happy creating, right?
Yes, happy creating.
Okay, be
Thanks,
safe.
Laurie.
Bye-bye.